Good morning, and welcome to our third New Economy Live event of 2020, Seizing the AI Opportunity for Calgary, hosted by our research and strategy team at Calgary Economic Development. My name is Jason Ribeiro. I serve as the Director of Strategy at CED, and I will be your host and panel moderator for the next 60 minutes. As always, I want to begin this event by acknowledging the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is home to all of us who live, work, and play in Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to join us, and we hope the information and insights presented not only level set on some of the inner workings of these disruptive technologies, but prove useful to you in your work, in business, at home, and in community. Now, before we get further into our program for the day, I'd like to invite you to join the conversation on social media using the hashtag #NewEconomy, and share any questions, insights, and learnings with your fellow Calgarians online. While the chat function will be closed for today's proceedings, you can post a question or comment using the Q&A function right here in Zoom that we can address during today's event or even offline. It's important that you upvote questions and comments from other attendees, as we will aim to tackle the most popular posts before the hour is up. You can do that by clicking the thumbs up sign next to a post that appears. Now, as some of our returning attendees might know, the New Economy Live series was created to bring together members to learn about our community's economic strategy, Calgary in the New Economy. A few simple rules have underpinned our approach. These events needed to be free to attend, citizen-focused, pair you with high-quality research, and feature truly inspiring speakers. And I'm so pleased we get to say promise made, promise kept today. The vision of Calgary in the New Economy is that Calgary becomes the city of choice for the world's best entrepreneurs who embrace technology to solve some of the world's greatest challenges, including cleaner energy, safe and secure food, the efficient movement of goods and people, and better health solutions. A place that stands out not because we have all the answers, but because we'll run through a brick wall to get them. That's the city we're building together, and this is truly your strategy. So as you can see on your screens, the strategy features 4 interconnected pillars that we as a community need to focus on to create economic resiliency in Calgary: talent, place, innovation, and business environment. In February, we kicked off this series at the Center for Newcomers by focusing on the place pillar and discussed how we must view Calgary's new immigrants as economic drivers and actively support diversity and inclusion, which in sum would advance our desire to truly becoming the most livable city in Canada for all. And just last month, we continued the series virtually by highlighting how we can become Canada's most business-friendly city at a time when the traditional boundaries of business are disappearing, as digitization defines new ways of creating, interacting, and working. Today, however, we're locked straight ahead on that innovation pillar, which is supremely, supremely important. As we think about not only could it be more timely, seeing that next week is actually Innovation Week in our city, and you'll hear more about what that entails before the end of the session. Today, you will hear a brief research presentation from CED on data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence in Calgary. But given that the focus of today's session is on the future of innovation in our city, we thought it fitting to highlight some of the folks that will be on the front lines of that shift, our brilliant students. So you will also be hearing from the students of the Economics Talent Engagement Program of our Team Calgary partner, the University of Calgary, as they walk us through a really smart patent analysis study they did in collaboration with our office. This will segue nicely into our expert C-suite panel featuring StellarAlgo, a Calgary-based startup that has developed an AI-powered SaaS platform that allows live audience businesses such as professional sports organizations to better connect with their fans, boasting customers like the New York Yankees, Portland Trail Blazers, and our very own Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation, they recently closed a $1.5 million seed extension this past summer. You'll hear from Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund recipient AltaML, an AI and ML company from Edmonton, please hold your boos, who recently expanded into Calgary, you can cheer now, to create an applied AI lab in the city that aims to offer paid internships to approximately 240 Calgarians. And I believe the program to date has received over 550 applications for their first cohort of 9. And finally, Validere, a Calgary-based AI and IoT startup working on creating supply chain efficiencies in oil and gas for over 50 of North America's leading energy companies, and who closed a 20 million Series A raise just this past year. These companies embody the vision of Calgary in the new economy, and I'm thrilled their founders and senior leaders were able to join us today. We will follow the panel with an audience Q&A and close the event at noon, just in time for lunch. With that, I will turn things over to one of the anchors of our research and strategy team, our economist, Hubba Khatoon, to present the findings of yesterday's research release from CED, which is hot off the presses, on how we can seize the AI opportunity for Calgary.
Thank you. The artificial intelligence landscape in Calgary continues to develop at a rate that signals the willingness of companies to really embrace digital transformation. The solutions are game-changing, and Calgary's cutting-edge technologies are empowering and disrupting industries globally. Looking at the global landscape for artificial intelligence, worldwide revenues for big data and business analytics solutions was forecasted to reach over 189 million US dollars. And that's double-digit growth that we'll see annually through 2020. Now, artificial intelligence jobs are on a growth trajectory all over the globe. Just our neighboring country in the US employs over 2.7 million artificial intelligence professionals. In terms of Canada, we look at the EMC report, which really talks about the big data market. And we're expecting to have that growth by 40% over 2020. This number was provided by IDC as of 2016, and we expect this to have escalated looking at the current conditions in 2020. So that's wonderful. Now let's talk a little bit about where Calgary stands in this rapid AI and digital transformation growth. Calgary is home to 55% of Alberta's private tech companies. There's strong investment growth into the digital transformation, and it's forecasted across all sectors in Calgary, ranging between 16 to about 23% by 2022. Software also continues to be the leading sector, with 40% of total tech deal flow in Alberta. Now, to understand the meaning and the true meaning of these stats and where Calgary companies are in the analytics services, it would be helpful to really walk through the analytics process. This process focuses on 5 main stages of the spectrum, and we'll take some time to kind of walk through them and help us understand where companies are on that spectrum. So the first phase is data collection, which involves gathering more data that translates to greater reporting accuracy, especially in the application of machine learning and Internet of Things. Calgary's artificial intelligence companies empower clients with better decision-making abilities. They enable real-time communication of information across large distances and multiple sites. The second phase here is data analysis and data visualization. Through this process, information is produced, and then it identifies trends. So Calgary companies have found great success in the application of artificial intelligence in the subsets of energy, clean tech, healthcare, and more industries. And why not? They're great at it. These companies have had the capability to develop rich, useful dashboards, allowing clients access to analyze both historic and real-time metrics. Some great examples of companies doing amazing work in this realm are MBO Systems and Spire Data Corp. The third phase of the analytics spectrum is predictive and prescriptive analytics. While data analysis deals with historical data, the prediction and the prescription aspect of data analytics really looks at the application of findings. Calgary companies are advancing their work in predictive and prescriptive analytics, and this is another area where they're really excelling. One example of a company doing excellent work in this space is Simo for Hire, which incorporates predictive analytics algorithms to help optimize marketing and sales results for clients. The fourth phase is autonomous systems and machine learning, which includes artificial intelligence and decision making. This phase is all about generating systems that can drastically increase the efficiency and scale at which data can be gathered and processed. There are numerous companies in Calgary that have advanced tech capabilities and products and do amazing work in this area. Some great examples are AltaML, StellarAlgo, and Validere. That will be part of the panel today. Another great fact about Calgary's companies is that their solutions are industry specific. Being a well-established energy city, Calgary has obvious advantages in businesses, in intelligence systems that are related to energy industry. In addition to that, local technology companies are using data analytics and machine learning and artificial intelligence to seek out solutions in other industries. And these industries include marketing, construction, agriculture, transportation, life sciences, insurance, retail, aerospace, and digital media. So great work happening in Calgary's AI ecosystem. How can we seize the AI opportunity? Let's talk about 5 avenues that kind of help and support that purpose even further. The first one is increasing collaboration. Capturing the full value of data analytics requires significant collaboration between various players through the different segments of the value chain. For example, a symbiotic relationship exists between industry and academia. Research work in universities is taken up by industry and turned into products and services, while industry looks to academia to train graduates whose skill sets are aligned with industry requirements. In terms of infrastructure, co-working spaces such as Assembly, Work Nicer, Infusion, the Commons, WeWork are rapidly expanding, bringing with them a communal work culture conducive to collaboration. Another example of success of Calgary's artificial intelligence is the Artificial Intelligence Meetup in Calgary, which now includes over 3,400 members to date. So overall, in terms of increasing collaboration, a strategic approach in developing the artificial intelligence space would require identifying existing assets within Calgary that can be harnessed to create impactful collaborations. The second aspect is addressing the skills shortage, which is the ability of talent to effectively utilize and capture the full potential of artificial intelligence in Calgary. That's very important. Calgary has identified a shortage of analytics talent that ranges from data experts to local technology companies really looking for, data scientists, and they've had trouble in attracting and retaining these professionals. Now, increasing training efforts that integrate tech skills into existing capabilities are important. Some avenues here in Calgary are doing great work in the field. For example, Government of Alberta's Talent Advisory Council on Technology, Edge Up from the Future Skills Program, University of Calgary's Data Science programs, SAIT's Digital Transformation Hub, Lighthouse Labs, and EvolveU. We believe at Calgary Economic Development that through creating and scaling a well-networked community, Calgary can become a showcase of world-class expertise that will attract further talent. The third area is financing. Calgary has high investment potential for both private and public financing. With rapidly changing technology landscape, there continues to be tremendous opportunities for investment in emerging and local technology companies. As Calgary's investment landscape evolves, having local investors learn to work with high-tech opportunities is part of building a capacity. And we believe that a globally competitive innovation system is how is built in that way. The fourth aspect is scaling. Generally, small businesses move at a faster pace than larger businesses. For this reason, their critical stage for any startup is the period between ideation and market penetration. The challenge for startups lies in that they must act fast to assess the product market fit. Now, tech startups need the opportunity to better convey how their technology advancements make a more competitive business proposition. To better tackle this challenge, large or established companies should work with startups to streamline due diligence processes and support piloting projects. The fifth aspect is IP ownership. Now, legal barriers and gray areas are a key problem for startups that are trying to go to market and attract investors. For companies established from university research activity, most Canadian institutions follow the inventor-owned IP policy. And this can often affect ownership of IP when it comes to creating groundbreaking projects and tends to experience issues with that. The mission is to refine the IP law that's suitable for high-tech environments, and it's a global mission. Canada can look at European Union, Japan, Singapore for examples of how the legal system works in relation to AI innovations. So the artificial intelligence landscape in Calgary has developed remarkably, and new advances in technology are paving the way for new breakthroughs. For us to remain competitive, we need to create a supportive ecosystem that can enable and nurture fast-paced growth and collaboration in the digital tech community. Moving on, it's also important to showcase a few key companies in Alberta and Calgary that live their artificial intelligence story. A comprehensive description of these companies and their case studies is presented in the Artificial Intelligence, Machine Learning, and Data Analytics report, which was released yesterday, and we will also send a link to all participants following this webinar. Before I pass the stage back to Jason for the panel discussion, I wanted to share our contact information just in case you have any questions about the content and data in the presentation, and also on the report on AI, ML, and data analytics. You can reach us at these email addresses. Now, as Jason mentioned, earlier this year, 4 amazing students utilized their growing expertise in economic analysis to conduct an innovation study with us. Over the past several decades, Calgary has experienced a surge in patenting. The students' analysis really highlighted key growth trends across Calgary in established sectors and emerging sectors, and their presentation today will highlight the methodology and the form that they use to create insights. With this, I'll pass it over to Connor, Graham, Adel, and Tizita.
Driving Growth Through Innovation in Calgary. This is a presentation by University of Calgary economics students Graham Bennett, Adel, Ghavidel, Tizita, Jimma, and Connor Valde. So our main motivation behind this project was to create an accessible and interactive way to observe how patenting by Calgarian inventors and companies have changed over the years. Recently, over the past 2 decades or so, Calgary has experienced a great surge in patenting. However, there have been no readily available data analysis tools to visualize and interpret these trends in patenting across Calgarian industries, and also to identify the type of inventions that have been patenting. As a response to this, we created a tool which allows users to review the innovation landscape of Calgary and to do just that, to clearly observe innovation and growth trends across industries. By highlighting Calgary's innovation potential, we can fulfill Calgary Economic Development's mandate to position Calgary as a location of choice to attract business, investment, and talent. Through the Economic Analytics Talent Engagement Program, we were able to partner with Hubba, Khatoon, and Nicole Mullings in Calgary Economic Development. This partnership was essential as it allowed us as University of Calgary economic students to utilize our skills in data analytics and our background in economics, along with the expertise of our partners at CED and their knowledge on Calgary's business landscape to create this patent analysis app.
We use 3 main sources for our data. Through a collaboration with Alberta Innovates, we accessed PatSnap. This provided a database containing patents and all details about them, such as year published, abstract, and international classification. We also used reports from Crunchbase and PitchBook, business analytics websites, to compile a list of key industry important words. A crucial part of this process was converting from an international classification to the Canadian standard, moving from IPC to NAICS. NAICS uses a numeric code to identify industries with additional numbers for more specific sub-industries to allow detailed analysis. We compiled this information to demonstrate trends in patenting by different industries over time. Connor will showcase an application using agribusiness.
So our final product is an interactive visualization that highlights patent counts for different industries and types of inventions. So we're just going to go over an example use case for agribusiness. Agribusiness is agriculture conducted on commercial principles, especially using advanced technologies. This was identified by Calgary Economic Development as one of 7 established and emerging industry clusters where Calgary has a competitive advantage. And agribusiness is focused on reducing crop costs, increasing yields, huge growth in drone technology, soil and field analysis, and planting and crop monitoring. So at a high level, using our dashboard, we can look at 5 general industries, one of them being agricultural, forestry, and fishing and hunting. So right here, you can see at a high level, you can't see really any trends. But if we move into our next classification, which is using 3-digit NAICS codes, there's 30 specific clusters. So right here, I have support activities for agriculture and forestry and crop production. So this gives a better depiction of the growth in industry over, you can see 2008 to 2018, a lot of growth in these areas. And then next, we can move into specific keywords, such as sensor and imagery. So you can see in line with the growth we saw from 2008 to 2018, you can see that here with these technologies. And it's important to look at these technologies to kind of back up what we're seeing with the drone technology, soil and field analysis, which these would be important for continuing that development in the area.
We observe similar trends in other established industries in Calgary. Patenting in transportation equipment manufacturing has greatly increased since 2009, and we saw a steep increase in oil and gas extraction patents from 2008 through 2013. In the future, this analysis could be adjusted to better observe innovation in emerging sectors such as tourism and creative industries that are less inclined towards patenting, or be able to separate innovation in life sciences and financial services from the overarching fields they're currently absorbed into. Overall, we can conclude that Calgary's established industries are exhibiting strong innovation as evidenced by increases in patenting. Thank you for listening to our presentation. The dashboard link is here for your interest.
Thank you to Hubba and to the students for both of those incredibly insightful presentations. We were so honored to be one of the community partners for the U of C's Economic Talents Engagement Program, and kudos to all involved for providing critical work and research experience to our city's students. With that, let's dive into our main event, our C-suite panel. Vince Ircandia is the founder and CEO of StellarAlgo. Welcome, Vince. Nicole Janssen is the co-founder and co-CEO of AltaML. Good to see you, Nicole. And Mark Dain is the vice president strategy at Validere. Welcome. So great to see you all. To all of our attendees, this is the time to make use of that Q&A function down below. We'll be monitoring it and seeing if you have any questions for a particular panelist or just in general. Let's get right into it. Most companies these days are trying to innovate. And a few of the buzzwords we hear casually thrown around constantly are artificial intelligence, machine learning. I should have had an AI one on this side, actually, to balance up ML. I think it would be helpful for our attendees to hear from companies who are either utilizing these tools in their own daily business practices or exporting these solutions to others. So, I'll start with you, Vince, and then I'll proceed to the rest of the panelists. What was the state of professional sports, before these disruptive technologies began being applied, and what is it now? How have they made a difference in your business?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. We're excited that we've built a software as a service data platform from right here in Calgary, and we're powering customer relationships with over 80 of North America's largest live event properties, leagues, brands, and so we live in a world now where there's so much sales and marketing noise through so many channels, and I felt this in my 10 plus years experience being on the sports property and entertainment property side of things, we were just over messaging people, and people were inundated with things. So, what we really are doing with our platform is using data to really make good on helping our customers to build authentic and value-added relationships with their fans. An example of this would be, you've got somebody, that might be, following your sports team, and maybe they live in Calgary, but maybe they're a fan of another team, and they might just happen to have interacted with your team. We would see things like properties trying to go and sell a season ticket to that person that might not even really be a true fan of yours, or they live out of market, and buying a season ticket is never going to be possible for them. So what about e-commerce products, or what about streaming products? So we really use technology to combine a large number of digital online and offline data sources to really help understand these fans better. And then we use machine learning, which is really a core capability of ours that's necessary now to understand the millions of customers and billions of fan touch points that our platform actually serves now. And so the technology can process this data and identify signals in a way that wasn't possible, even 5 years ago. So yeah, our platform really, I think, has been truly disruptive, and that's really what's powered our growth. And our belief is that brands today have a responsibility to understand their customers, what they're interested in, how they want to be spoken to and nurtured. And so using machine learning against those data sets really allows these brands to build deeper, more meaningful relationships with their customers. And we're seeing some amazing results, like even through this pandemic, where people are becoming more digital first. We're seeing engagement rates on customers from brands we work with actually going up through this. We're seeing better conversion on things like e-commerce and streaming than ever before. And so we see ourselves as a little bit of a secret sauce and secret weapon for these properties. And doing it from Calgary has been really exciting for us.
You mentioned responsibility and the relationship that you have with these professional brands. Nicole, your business is really helping clients across different sectors, different business cultures really take advantage of AI and ML more generally. And so, given the variety, what was the state of some of your clients before, and how have you been able to help them transform into new lines of revenue and growth?
Yeah, we work across a lot of industries, like you said, Jason. And just to clear it up, Jason, we're an Alberta-based company, not an Edmonton-based company.
There we go.
So we have worked in health, ag, financial services, energy, insurance, transportation, utilities, you name it, we've worked in it. We've seen over 150 use cases in the last 2 years. So, but if I could bucket it into 4 areas, what we're seeing is companies are using machine learning to have a cost reduction, to do a risk reduction, increased margin, or to improve their customer experience. So just to throw out 2 examples, we worked with a large utility company so that they could identify those individuals that were their customers that were in default. And they could identify that they fell into 3 buckets. One bucket was they were never going to pay. One bucket was if they were offered a payment plan, they would likely pay. And then the other group was they had simply forgotten. A quick reminder is all it would take. That way, they've been able to focus the individuals who need to make a phone call on that second group, the ones who just need a payment plan. They can send a text to the ones that just need a reminder and not focus their time on that third category where they're just never going to pay, which has allowed their team to keep up on those defaults a lot better than they could before. Another example, we worked with Dynalife in identifying colon polyps. So I guess the way this works, which I didn't know, is that you go in, you have your scan, a pathologist looks, at the scans. Is this enough information for me to make a diagnosis? No, it's not. Make another booking with the patient. This goes on multiple times. So then, this is wasted time by the doctor. And the poor patient is waiting to find out if they have colon cancer. So what we've been able to identify is through computer vision to determine, is this scan, going to allow for a diagnosis, so we can speed up that diagnosis. So those are just a couple examples we've been working on.
No, those are great, and yeah, I think demonstrate the power and reach of some of these technologies and the actual value add, not just on a balance sheet, but in people's lives that they can have. So I'll pick up there with you, Mark. There is no more, I think, sort of sensitive or top of mind concern as the state of our energy sector. And I think when most people think about traditional oil and gas and others, it's a very dated picture. Walk us through, I think, a little bit about, what once was in the oil and gas supply chain and what Validere has really been able to help them do today and into the future.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add this to help Nicole out with the Edmonton stigma is we're based in both Calgary and Toronto, so we're happy to take some heat for that. One thing I'd say about the industry is there's this interesting misperception that large industries, so if you think about agriculture, energy, logistics, many of them based here in Calgary, that they're not adoptive of new technologies. And I would say that's entirely incorrect. It's this interesting thing where it's just that the application of those technologies, specifically AI, is exceptionally non-trivial in these industries. So you think about, if I want to roll out an AI that's a trading algorithm, or if I want to roll out an AI for customer service, that's pretty easy to do. Like, it can, get on the phone with me. There's a pretty quick feedback loop, and being wrong is relatively low risk. For these large industries, they're actually exceptionally smart, super embracive of technology, but application is non-trivial. If I want to create an AI to inform how, a barrel of oil should move through the supply chain, and we do exactly that, that could impact 1,000 people's jobs in, not significantly, in minor ways. Maybe they have to change one thing they do that day, but you're still talking about 1,000 people's jobs, and the risk of being wrong is significant, both economically, environmentally. So it makes perfect sense that these industries have to adopt this technology within those constraints. And I think the important thing to emphasize around that is that to be successful, and probably why, just like you talked about at the start, why a lot of these successful AI companies, especially in Alberta, are focused vertically, is you almost have to be entirely focused on implementation and friction. That almost becomes more important than the solution itself. And I think the really exciting thing there for everyone listening is that that important gap that's often missing actually applies their existing skill set. So the most difficult part is figuring out, okay, how do I implement this with the least friction? And, everyone on this call that has that expertise in traditional industries, that's probably what they're most well equipped to do. So I think that's a really important takeaway, that it's more and more about reducing friction when you are servicing these large industries. And these are real constraints that probably give a very incorrect public perception of how quickly technology is being adopted.
It's a great jump off point to one of the questions from the chat that Fabio has posited, and I'll open it up to anyone who wants to respond quickly, which is to say, the foundation that a business has, and understanding of their industry and their sector is pretty elemental to be ready for the application of AI and ML. What does that maturity horizon look like? Are there businesses or companies or sectors that you work with that they haven't done a little bit of that pre-work yet to be ready? Or is everyone, to your point, Mark, really well situated in what their sector does well, what their industry does well, and it's just really around that implementation friction side of things that they can get up and running? Is that more or less what you guys are seeing, or is there still a ton of pre-work that needs to be done for some of these companies to be even ready for a solution like what you folks propose?
No, I would say everyone is very receptive, and they are looking for these types of solutions. The historical impediment has been that friction that we spoke about. And the interesting thing that created is it created kind of environment where a lot of service providers didn't have a data advantage that made it worthwhile to use them. So if you think about, if I want to create a predictive algorithm for maintenance or logistics, obviously I'm much more well served by, going externally if an external AI provider has much more data points informing that algorithm. If a leader hasn't emerged in my industry vertical, which we see in a lot of these large industry verticals, then I'm probably well served by also looking at that in-house. So we're only starting to get to the level here in Alberta. We're very thankful to our original customers where we're kind of at 5 million barrels a day connected into our software now. So we're getting a couple million data points that inform our algorithms. But until you get through that first threshold of a couple customers, there's less of a reason for industry to use an external provider. And I'd say a lot of major industries in Alberta are just reaching that threshold where there are a couple leaders, like the individuals on this call, that are able to provide a real step change in the insight they can apply to their solutions.
Wonderful. So I'll Nicole, just want to jump in there as well too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the starting point is different for everyone with where they're at, but everybody is ready to start. Our biggest thing is a little bit of base education goes a long way. And then what are your business problems? What would you get ROI on if you work on a model here? And then, let's take a look if you've got the data. If you don't have the data, let's figure out what key pieces you need to gather, and you can start doing that. The problem is a lot of companies look at this, and we need to collect all of our data. And in fact, they only need a few things, and it really wouldn't be a huge cost to implement collecting that data. But because it appears like this massive project, they don't take it on.
Well said. In that vein, we have another question from the chat that I'll just quickly address. It comes from Vincent. How do we define innovation? And I think at least from our end, and we'll see if this is explicated through the answers to the subsequent questions, is it's a fundamental change in process and product. What we sometimes see in the buzzword realm of innovation is that you can change a little bit of the way you're doing things, but the end product doesn't really reflect that, or the inverse, where you've just changed one or two elements here where you take a paper-based process, moved it online, but the fundamental levers around collecting data, manipulating that data, and then getting more options for decision making don't exist. So that deep innovation is that fundamental change in both process and product. So thank you for the question. Keep them coming. I'll go to you, Vince. You have some, incredibly impressive sort of, quote unquote, sexy clients. And I rattled off a few earlier, at least to me as a sports fan. I think one of the things that doesn't get enough attention, particularly in our ecosystem when we talk about scaling tech solutions in Calgary, is the role of sales. How have you managed to essentially sell a disruptive technology powered by AI in ways that your competitors have not?
Yeah, I think it really starts on the sales front, which is I myself have spent a lot of time on that over the course of the last 4 years. But I think what's really served us is definitely the knowledge of the problems that we were trying to solve. And so Nicole mentioned this a little bit in her previous answer. But I see a lot of ideas out there, or projects that are interesting, but not necessarily something that you can commercialize and scale. So I think before starting the company, I think the knowledge and experience that I had gained in this industry, and I spent most of my career with some leading companies south of the border. I think that really served us from inception of our company, and it continues to serve us in our DNA, as we really do understand the problems we're trying to solve very well, I think, over and above any other competitors. I think the second part of that is that data problems are, can be challenging, and all of us in this world know that. There's not necessarily quick fixes. It is a journey, and execution is really paramount and important. And I think we've really built ourselves a really world-class team. Our CTO, Sean Finn, I consider a world-class data talent, and he's really been able to execute on some really challenging data problems that wouldn't have probably even been possible, frankly, 5 years ago to do this. I think the last part of it is we have been really intentional about the fact that scaling SaaS technology and data technology from Calgary. 80% of our customers are south of the border right now. We're across North America, and have ambitions of going into other international markets. We've been really intentional about how we've designed our sales process and how we've scaled. I'll give Carrie Houston a plug here, but her 321 Sales Academy for software as a service technology, we put all of our our sales account management people through that, and it's an amazing program. We've I think done a really good job of building a sales process that has worked. And the exciting thing is that in this environment with the pandemic and for what we do, we're seeing more businesses now really hustling to change the way that they're operating, and going from an older way of doing things now to a much more data-driven, a much more digital-first way of acting, because customers now are engaging in a digital-first way, and they're not necessarily ready to transition their businesses to the level necessary. And that's exactly where we play. We help businesses wrangle all of those digital data points so that they can build lifetime customers and a lot of value there. So
that's a pretty great segue, I think, for you, Nicole, into being in the business of partnerships, co-development. You're pairing your software with existing businesses and their need for customized solutions. Vince talked about the changing nature of business problems and openness to technology. In your experience, how big or small is the need for AI and ML enhanced solutions in Calgary and Alberta? For Vince, they've pretty much carved off a little bit of a niche within live audience and professional sports. But for you guys, it seems like the world is your oyster. Is that need as big as we think it is, or is it a little bit more targeted from your perspective?
No, the need in Alberta is significant. I'm going to be honest, there isn't a CEO in this province that isn't exploring machine learning. But no one wants to tell anyone about it because they want it to be their competitive advantage. The number of companies that we work with who have said, you can't tell anybody, is massive. It's a horizontal enabler, machine learning. It can boost up any industry. It's not necessarily an industry on its own. It makes all of our, other industries better. And like I said, 150 use cases in 2 years, that's a lot of use cases we've looked at. And we are working with all of the major companies in the province right now.
Before I get to Mark, I want to pick up on that and actually make this open to all the panelists. Brent's asked a follow-up question, in that vein, which is talking about, the elephant in the room about, balancing competitive market advantage with, ecosystem growth, which is different in the Alberta and Calgary context, just based on some of the history of our major employers and sectors, business culture. This is a little bit of a step change, Mark, as you mentioned earlier. But for all of you, to Brent's point, are we lacking a little bit of collaboration or coordination in that, rising tide lifts all boats? Or are we starting to see, in your estimation, any of the three of you, the right signals or right signs that we could be headed in that direction of sustained growth, ecosystem growth, that once we get over this little hump of, hey, this is mine, it could be unlocked for the further potential of Calgary and Alberta?
Yeah, one thing I'd add that we've seen across our clients is a lot of this is actually a positive sum game, almost all of it. And this is kind of what Nicole spoke about, where you think about a lot of these industries. One, there's obviously the opportunity alone where we create a lot of technology in Alberta and we have the opportunity to export that IP. But I'd say the interesting thing with most of these major industries is that a lot of these tools are just reducing waste. So it's not, specific individuals. You're not replacing roles, which I think is one of the most exciting things about most of the jobs and industries you have here. If you're, avoiding an incorrect crude shipment that then has to be disposed and treated, or similar for agriculture. That's not anyone's job you're replacing. That's just more dollars for the entire supply chain, more dollars for the companies here. And I'd say one thing that ourselves and our peers, and I'd say Alberta as a whole, is getting more comfortable with is telegraphing your use of technologies and what you're trying to solve. Like I'd say, we've always seen this, but you're very well served by being transparent about what you're trying to solve, because there are an exceptional number of collaborators in this province. And I'd say that's one thing where Silicon Valley does this very well, where any of the companies that had kind of their secret beta that they're going to roll out in a couple of years, that often didn't work well because they weren't getting kind of a collaborative feedback loop. And I'd say Albertans as a whole are pretty good at that already, and we're certainly getting better.
Excellent. Anyone else around the state of our ecosystem and coordination?
Our ecosystem could definitely use some coordination. I have found it's improving for sure, but it's a little bit piecemeal right now. Everybody's trying to take on their own areas. If we could come together with more of a collaborative approach and really brand our province in a way that not only nationally, but internationally, we can be recognized as an AI hub. I mean, we've got the talent. The talent coming out of the U of A is amazing. It's world class, and we're being very humble about it. I live in Edmonton. I did not know that there was that kind of talent coming out of the U of A until we started this business.
Wow.
No one's talking about it. Like, let's get a little swagger. Let's be a little American for once. Drop that Canadian humbleness and get some swagger and tell the world that we're amazing.
To the king of swagger, Vince, what are your thoughts?
I've been called a lot of things, never that, but I'll take it. Yeah, I agree. And we work in obviously a lot of different U.S. markets, and so I still think there's sort of this viewpoint around around data, around machine learning and technology in general, where there's this magic juju happening, and I need to keep it very close to my vest and not share it with any others around me. That I think is, I think it's something that we see probably more here, I think, in Alberta than we do in some other markets. I think what is going to help make this a world-class city, province, the businesses here to be more national, more global, is starting to take a deeper, wider, more global view of what this technology can sort of enable for these businesses, and it's required to compete on a global scale. We're not the only ones doing it. If you're trying to hang on to this IP and not talk about these things, I think it probably ends up hurting the companies in the long term, as opposed to benefiting them, in my personal view and from what we see. So,
Mark, in terms of the American style swagger, you guys play a lot in that space down south. In my estimation, Validere has taken on some pretty heady challenges as part of its business model. Optimizing supply chains for oil and gas, helping energy companies reduce their environmental footprint. What is the next sort of challenge Validere is looking to solve, given its competitive advantage in using artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I think in the near term, and again, this goes to being transparent around your mission and your goals. It'd be funny if I was suddenly super cagey about what we were doing next. So the next thing we're focusing on is effectively we're going further downstream. So targeting, we already have some refinery clients, but being better able to serve them, and then going into refined products. Because again, it's many of the same things where you've got specific constraints. Maybe you have to produce a sustainable fuel, or you've got to produce a low sulfur fuel oil. You've got highly unpredictable variables, unknowns, and specific constraints you have to meet. So we're planning to continue to apply our technology further downstream. And I think the reason we're doing that is we get a compounding benefit by working kind of across the supply chain for our existing customers. And The only thing I'd add there that I think is really exciting about a lot of the supply chains based in Calgary, agriculture, energy, is you do get this compounding effect, network effect, because there's actually a great feedback loop in these supply chains, even though they aren't thought of that way. So every time, a barrel changes hands, there's we've seen on the average barrel, there's 11 points of custody transfer sometimes before it's refined. That's actually a great feedback loop for machine learning, and it's similar across agriculture. So these are actually great industries for AI, and you're better served by continuing to kind of increase your vertical presence within them.
In terms of, and this will go to all of you, there's a really great comment in the chat or questions, keep them coming. I'll just combine two of them. You talk about, use cases, implementation, being well situated for the pre-work, but there is a little bit of an elephant in the room, and that is around public perceptions or just commonplace perceptions about what AI does. And in many cases, sometimes what it doesn't do. So Ayush mentioned a really great question around, it suffers from being considered a little bit of a black box in an organization, or could not be very interpretable. There's a lack of trust. I see my doctoral supervisor, Dr. Eugene Couch, has also talked about this, a little bit of the knowledge gap as it concerns some of these technologies within the body politic or the city in general. How do we bridge that gap? Certainly, I think, conversations and you being able to talk practically helps, but how do we bridge that gap for companies to really harness that trust and knowledge for AI to actually be implemented at its full scale?
Yeah, from my perspective, just to jump in on it, it's definitely a really good question. And with, our customers are at different sophistication levels and have different types of data personnel on their sides as well. And so, the methodologies and approaches that we might take in building a model or specific algorithm for them sometimes is even, just driven by, what they're most interested in. So like you can, if we build something that's a real black box neural net and the outputs are really opaque, but it can help them get better and gives them better answers, that model might work really well for some of our customers and be fine. For others, we have to actually just take a different approach and make sure that those models we're building aren't quite as opaque and that there is more visibility into what is predictive, what are the predictors, and to your point earlier, like some of those learnings along the ways can help with the processes and the adoption of that data because like getting it adopted to create value is also very, very important. So, I think education is the big one, but I think like, I think the idea that, artificial intelligence is just this complete black box and we don't know what's going on. I think that is, there is just some misinformation and education to be done because I really think that that's not the case. It does really depend on what you're trying to achieve for whom.
Well put. I'm just being cognizant of time. There seems to be a flood of talent-related questions, so I'll just move into our last one. We've very much blended our panel and Q&A together. For Vince, Nicole, and Mark, during these New Economy Live sessions in 2020, we've covered off 3 of the pillars, as I mentioned earlier. But our next session in December will be our 4th and on talent. And that leads me to my lightning round question. And before I state it, I will just say to our attendees, all 3 of the companies represented today are hiring. So please be encouraged in the event posting. You saw some of their LinkedIn profiles, you saw their company pages. Please review their website because all of them are hiring within the talent pool in Calgary and Alberta. But in the lightning round, in 30 seconds or less, and I'm going to go Vince, Nicole, Mark. What are the top 3 soft or hard skills you're currently looking for in an employee? Vince, timer's on.
Okay, yeah, I'd say passion for their career, for technology, what they are doing. I think as part of that, I'll say actually, let me skip that. Empathy would be the next one. So really understanding others so you can build trust and understand where others are coming from. I think that's important. And then I think like I'd say on the harder, more technical side, it's, basic knowledge of, how data flows, how it gets used, some hands-on experience with tools and patterns to do that. I would say on the more technical side, that would be another one.
Awesome. Nicole, top three.
I'm going to break the rules because I'm just a rule breaker. I'm going with 4. I'm going with our core values. We look for people who are happy. They're great to work with. They have high emotional intelligence, humble. At our company, your opinions are great, but the data tells us the answer. Agile, with the rapid growth we've seen in the last 2.5 years, going from 0 to 100 employees, you've got to be adaptable and comfortable wearing different hats. And then gritty, just jump in and get the job done and use your passion to get yourself to the next level.
Awesome. And we'll close off with Mark.
So for us, it's character, motivation, and curiosity. Character makes perfect sense. Your clients are trusting you with their data. Motivation, it's interesting. As a new provider to these industries, you unfortunately just don't have the luxury of, if you get an email or there's a problem at 10 p.m., you're answering it then. And we make sure to do this for all our clients. So we make sure to hire appropriately to match that. And then curiosity, a lot of these problems haven't been solved in any industry. So you're just very well served by targeting those types of individuals. And I think it's exciting too that all three of us, none of them are related to technical skill sets. So it's clearly a good opportunity for people to join any of these firms.
Well said, and something I think for all of us to take away from that in this age of hyper attention being paid to the tech side of things, that it's ultimately the human, the experiential, the culture-based things and attitudinal fortitude that is ultimately going to make the difference from the employee side, but also I think demonstrated from you guys today. So thank you to Vince, Nicole, and Mark for not only participating today, but for committing to, I think, ushering through a new wave of innovation and transformation in our community. So thank you once again. Thank you to all on the CED end who make this event possible. To all of our attendees, please make sure to keep your eyes peeled for the data analytics, machine learning, and AI report that will appear in your inbox once the event has concluded. And I also want to close by giving a quick plug for our signature event, the 11th annual launch party, which is taking place on November 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. virtually. Join us at one of Calgary's largest startup-focused showcases of the year, where we will be recognizing some of Calgary's brightest early-stage startups and community members for their achievements in the local tech ecosystem. You can find more information at startupcalgary.ca. So we like to end every New Economy Live the same way, and today will be no different. We like to play a video we produce that sums up everything wonderful about this community with more visuals than words. You know it when you see it, and we can show you better than we can probably tell you. You can find it on YouTube on our Calgary Economic Development channel, and it's called This is Calgary. So if you're thinking about what to tell a colleague abroad who's looking to relocate their family, or what you could show an investor thinking about where to grow their company, or what you could give your son, daughter, niece, or nephew to show them all the city we're building together, please show them this. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you both at Launch Party and our final New Economy Live event of 2020 in December. Have a wonderful weekend, and make sure to wear your mask. Take care.
I know a place that's as tough as it is compassionate, a place with an unwavering work ethic and immeasurable heart. Qualities woven into the fabric of this city and its people. You see it in the day-to-day moments and the moments it's needed most. This place is Calgary, Alberta, a future-proof city, diverse in culture and diverse in economy. You might know it for its oil, farming, the Red Mile, or the greatest outdoor show on earth. But you'd only be scratching the surface. Calgary is a whole lot more. Anything is possible here. See, if you've got a dream and you're willing to do the work, Calgary has your back. The proof is in the people. The entrepreneurs that built this city, the innovators, risk takers, and artists. The proof is in the work they've done and keep on doing. It's in the culture they've created that keeps on inspiring. It's in the tech, energy, and life sciences sectors where cutting-edge, industry-disrupting work is being done every day. The proof is in our small businesses, a lot of them not so small anymore. This is the most livable city in all of North America, and one of the most livable cities on the planet. 5th, actually, but who's counting? So what's that mean? It means clocking out at 5 and being in the mountains for 6. It's a short commute that's easy or fun or breathtaking. Calgary is a city with a proud heritage and a limitless future. And if you want to be a part of all this, part of something big, something special, that time is right now. And we'd be happy to have you. Be part of the energy.